Most people hope to put a little money aside in their lifetime so they can retire comfortably. The median retirement savings for an adult in the United States is just over $100,000, which won't last you very long if you intend to be retired for decades. But for a handful of global elite, retiring comfortably is a given. In fact, these multi-billionaires represent the most powerful companies in the world and spend carelessly with no repercussions. Today, we're counting down the top 25 richest people in the world. You may know Michael Dell from his eponymous computer company, Dell Technologies. Though Dell has been overshadowed in recent years by Apple, it's still a major contender in the personal computer world. After buying back the company for $25 billion in the largest private buyback since the Great Depression, Dell went public again in 2018. Dell owns about 12% of the company, with many billions of dollars invested elsewhere in the stock market. In all, Michael Dell is worth an amazing $34.3 billion, making him the 25th richest person in the world. Sheldon Adelson may not be a household name, but if you've been to the Las Vegas Strip, then you've seen some of his handiwork. He's the CEO of the Las Vegas Sands Corporation. They own the Venetian Resort in Las Vegas, in addition to major hotel holdings in Singapore and Macau. Adelson grew up poor in the Boston metro area. After a series of failed business ventures like a career as a court reporter and a business selling toiletry kits, Adelson finally acquired the Sands property with a group of business partners. He is a major contributor to the Republican Party candidates. He sat out the Republican primary season during the 2016 presidential campaign, but on September 23rd, he announced a $25 million donation to Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, making him the largest donor to the Trump campaign and the largest donor in the presidential election. However, this is chump change to Adelson, who is worth $35.1 billion. Though you may not know them, the Albrecht family represent one of the biggest retail empires in history. Theo and Karl Albrecht started the Aldi supermarket chain when they were young and grew it into the single largest supermarket imprint in the world. At the time of his death, Karl Albrecht was the 21st richest man in the world. There was much infighting about who would receive the bulk of his fortune, but it ultimately went to Beate Heister and Karl Albrecht Jr., his only children. Together, they sit on the board of Aldi and have a combined net worth of $36.1 billion. Not bad considering they inherited the vast majority of this wealth. Born in 1958, Hui Kaiyan today chairs Evergrande Real Estate, a Hong Kong-listed real estate development company based in Guangzhou. With his enterprise, he is active in residential, commercial, as well as hotel property development. He's also known for his interest in sports. He sold 50% of Guangzhou Evergrande Football Club, his soccer team that won the AFC Champions League, to Jack Ma's Alibaba Group in 2014 for $192 million. Easily one of the richest people in China, this real estate magnate is also the 22nd richest person in the world, with a fortune of $36.2 billion. From humble beginnings as an English teacher, Jack Ma has since created one of the world's largest e-commerce empires. He is the CEO of the Alibaba Group, which is comprised of several of China's most popular websites, including the business marketplace Alibaba.com and the shopping site Taobao.com. Ma has a rags-to-riches story, working as a tour guide and failing the entrance exams to teacher school twice because he did not have a sound understanding of mathematics. But all his hard work paid off, as he is now worth $37.3 billion, and his fortune is only growing. Ma Huateng, also known as Pony Ma, is the CEO of Tencent Holdings, a Chinese tech behemoth that he co-founded in 1998. Ma has a background in engineering. The entrepreneur grew up in southern China, where his father worked as the manager of a major state-owned port. After graduating from Shenzhen University with a degree in computer science in 1993, he landed a job developing software for pagers. At the time, China had an average of just one computer for every 100 people. Still, Ma stayed in Shenzhen, making $176 per month at his first job. As a result, he had a front-row seat to China's tech boom in the mid-1990s. His app WeChat now has more than 1 billion monthly users. His current net worth is $38.8 billion. Steve Ballmer is an American businessman who served as the CEO of Microsoft from 2000 to 2014. As a college friend of Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft, Ballmer was one of the early employees of the company. In fact, he was the first business manager hired by Gates. Born into an affluent family, Steve Ballmer grew up to be an exceptionally brilliant student with extraordinary skills in mathematics. He graduated from Harvard College and worked for a while at Procter & Gamble before joining the Stanford Graduate School of Business. He then dropped out in order to take up a position at his friend Bill Gates' new venture, and went on to enjoy phenomenal success at Microsoft. Retired from Microsoft following an illustrious career, Ballmer now focuses on another one of his passions, basketball, and is currently the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers. Though he's a philanthropist and regularly gives away huge chunks of his fortune, Ballmer is still worth $41.2 billion. The Waltons lend their name to the legendary discount goods chain Walmart. Walmart is worth over $500 billion, according to Fortune Global 500 list in 2018, as well as the largest private employer in the world, with 2.3 million employees. Though they have struggled in recent years to keep up with Amazon, the company is still a major contender in the retail scene. After founder Sam Walton died, the empire was split among his many children and family members. Among them was Rob Walton, his eldest son, who ran the company for 25 years after his death, gaining even more stock options. He has a current net worth of $44.3 billion, though he is no longer involved in day-to-day operations at the company. Alice Walton has the same background as her older brother Rob. She was also lucky enough to be born into an affluent family with a global retail empire. But unlike her brother, Alice had a passion for the arts. She decided to remain financially invested in Walmart while ignoring the day-to-day tedium of the company. Walton purchased her first piece of art when she was about 10 years old. It was a reproduction of Picasso's Blue Nude she got from her father's Ben Franklin dime store. She and her mother would often paint watercolors on camping trips. Her interest in art led to her spearheading the Walton Family Foundation's involvement in developing Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art in the heart of Bentonville, Arkansas. Her collection includes pieces by Andy Warhol, Norman Rockwell, and Mark Rothko. She is the second richest woman in the world, with $44.4 billion. Rounding out the Walton siblings is Jim Walton. He is the youngest of the siblings and decided to get involved with the financial arm of the company. Specifically, he runs the family's Arvest Bank, which has more than $16 billion in assets. He's been involved in political campaigning over the years, but mostly shies away from the spotlight. After serving on the Walmart board for more than a decade, he has stepped down, but not before accruing a fortune of $44.6 billion. Françoise Bettencourt-Meyer is the richest woman in the world, but just like Alice Walton, she inherited her fortune. She gained her billions from her grandfather, L'Oreal founder Eugene Schuler. She owns 33% of the company's stock and served on the board for many years. Apart from her role in the company, Myers values the arts as well and has a philanthropic society set up to fund science and art projects. She also pledged $226 million to repair the Notre Dame Cathedral when it was damaged in April 2019. But this is not a significant amount of money to her, given that she is worth $49.3 billion. Sergey Brin co-founded the world's most used website with Larry Page in 1998. That's right, Brin is one of the masterminds behind Google. He now serves as the president of Google's parent company, Alphabet. Born in Moscow in 1973, Brin immigrated to the United States with his family from the Soviet Union at the age of 6. From there, he worked in the financial sector and the tech sector, before finally co-founding Google. Though Brin is not a household name, he is the world's 14th richest person, with $49.8 billion in assets. Mukesh Ambani is the richest man in India and the 13th richest person in the world. The Yemeni-born Indian business mogul is the chairman and managing director of the Indian conglomerate Reliance Industries Limited, or RIL, the foremost company of the Indian energy and materials conglomerate Reliance Group. He is renowned not only for his wealth, but for having one of the most ostentatious houses in the world, the Antilla in South Mumbai. The house is the most expensive privately owned residence in the world, with a valuation of over $2 billion. But this is just a fraction of Ambani's $50 billion fortune. Chances are you're familiar with the Koch brothers for their political influence and public personas. However, despite the Koch brothers' fame as political influencers, their primary activities are centered around running Koch Industries Incorporated, of which they own 84%. This is a private company that has revenues topping $100 billion. However, it is not really a single company, but a conglomerate of companies the brothers own. On June 5, 2018, David Koch retired from all roles related to the Koch Industries and Koch-affiliated group due to health reasons. Despite his declining health, he is still worth $50.5 billion. Tied for number 11 with his brother David, Charles Koch has been chairman and CEO of Koch Industries, America's second largest private company by revenue since 1967. The diversified company has some $110 billion in revenue from businesses including pipelines, chemicals, Dixie cups, and Stainmaster carpet. Having bought out their other brothers' stocks in 1983, the brothers now own 42% of the company's stock, for a total of $50.5 billion. Larry Page co-founded Google with Sergey Brin. He now sits on the board of its parent company, Alphabet. Page is the genius behind Google's PageRank algorithm that powers the ubiquitous search engine. He's also behind the healthcare company Calico and the technology company Nest. Since he founded Google in 1998, it has become a tech behemoth with almost no comparable rivals. This earned him a cool $50.8 billion, making him the 10th richest person on Earth. Michael Bloomberg graduated from Johns Hopkins University in 1964 with a degree in electrical engineering. After graduating from Johns Hopkins, he received his MBA from Harvard Business School. In 1966, Bloomberg was hired by Salomon Brothers in New York. His starting salary at Salomon was $9,000 a year. Fast forward to 2019, he has one of the largest media empires in the world and was the 108th mayor of New York City. He is worth an unbelievable $55.5 billion, and that number is only growing. As chronicled in the semi-dramatized biopic The Social Network, Facebook has a tumultuous origin story. The founding of Facebook has been in dispute since the very week a 19-year-old Mark Zuckerberg launched the site as a Harvard sophomore on February 4, 2004. Then called thefacebook.com, the site was an instant hit. Now, 15 years later, the site has become one of the biggest websites in the world, visited by more than 2 billion people a month. Though the company has been embroiled in controversy for the last year, it still makes a massive profit, earning Zuckerberg a $62.3 billion fortune. Larry Ellison is the founder and CEO of Oracle Corporation. He is also a major investor in Tesla. In 1977, Ellison and two of his colleagues founded Software Development Labs and soon had a contract to build a database management system, which they called Oracle, for the CIA. The company had fewer than 10 employees and revenue of less than $1 million per year. But in 1981, IBM signed on to use Oracle, and the company's sales doubled every year for the next 7 years. Ellison soon renamed the company after its best-selling product. Now his various financial interests, from cloud computing to hydroponics, have netted him $62.5 billion. Amancio Ortega is another figure who remains in the shadows, though his products are ubiquitous. He was the founder of Inditex, which includes pret-a-porter fashion chains such as Zara, Pull&Bear, Massimo Dutti, Bershka, Stradivarius, Oysho, and Uterque. Ortega founded the first Zara ready-to-wear clothing store in A Coruña in 1975, and it became not only an internationally famous chain but also the flagship of holding company Inditex, which he founded 10 years later. Notoriously private, few people know much about Ortega, but through tax records it's clear that he makes $400 million just from dividends every year. On top of his corporate profits, Ortega is worth $62.7 billion. Imagine if the grocery store, the cell phone provider, and biggest national construction conglomerate were all owned by the same company. No matter where you shop, you're still supporting the same business. That's essentially the situation in Mexico, where one of the world's richest people, Carlos Slim Helú, resides. The 79-year-old has a net worth of $64 billion, and from 2010 to 2013, he was the richest man in the world. He is not only the richest man in Mexico, but in all of South America. His conglomerate includes education, healthcare, industrial manufacturing, transportation, real estate, media, energy, hospitality, entertainment, high technology, retail, sports, and financial services. He accounts for 40% of the listings on the Mexican Stock Exchange, while his net worth is equivalent to about 6% of Mexico's gross domestic product. You may not have heard of Bernard Arnault, but you've certainly seen his products sported by celebrities and ultra-wealthy clientele all over the world. The luxury group he oversees, LVMH, is the parent company of brands like Louis Vuitton, Moet & Chandon, and Hennessy Cognac. Arnault controls about half of LVMH, which had revenue of 42.6 billion euros in 2017, making him the richest man in France. As the fourth richest man in the world, Arnault is worth a whopping $72 billion. In addition to LVMH, Arnault oversees further investment in holding vehicles. Group Arnault has invested in Netflix and Blue Capital, and also took a major stake in French food chain Carrefour. In addition, he has invested in Boo.com and a variety of other online ventures, as well as buying Princess yachts outright. Known as the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett is an investment guru and one of the richest and most respected businessmen in the world. Born in Nebraska in 1930, Warren Buffett demonstrated keen business abilities at a young age. He formed Buffett Partnership Ltd. in 1956, and by 1965 he had assumed control of Berkshire Hathaway, overseeing the growth of a conglomerate with holdings in the media, insurance, energy, and food and beverage industries. Buffett became one of the world's richest men and a celebrated philanthropist. His net worth is $82.5 billion, though he has pledged to give it all away during his lifetime. Entrepreneur and businessman Bill Gates and his business partner Paul Allen founded and built the world's largest software business, Microsoft, through technological innovation, keen business strategy, and aggressive business tactics. In the process, Gates became one of the richest men in the world. In February 2014, Gates announced that he was stepping down as Microsoft's chairman to focus on charitable work at his foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Though Gates is still number 2 on the list, he has already given away more than a third of his fortune. Once seen as a greedy technocrat, Gates has proven that he is genuinely invested in improving the lives of others, rather than accumulating an absurd amount of money. All the same, he is worth $96.5 billion. And then there's Jeff Bezos. He has been the richest person in the world for just over a year, but his retail juggernaut Amazon.com seems bent on world domination. The entrepreneur and e-commerce pioneer was born in 1964 in New Mexico. Bezos had an early love of computers and studied computer science and electrical engineering at Princeton University. After graduation, he worked on Wall Street, and in 1990 he became the youngest senior vice president at the investment firm D.E. Shaw. 4 years later, he quit his lucrative job to open Amazon.com, an online bookstore that became one of the internet's biggest success stories. Unlike Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, Bezos has no interest in charity. Instead, he has a laser focus on growing his brand until Amazon is a dominant global force. Whether you support him or not, his practices have earned him an unreal $131 billion.